If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
I'm Carrie Kirkpatrick and I'm a psychic clairvoyant. When you have a reading with me, I can tune into what is going on around you. My speciality is working with goddesses to help you to become more successful in your life. I find that people often need guidance in their love lives, and I'm an expert in helping you to get the most out of your relationships. I'm a practitioner of results magic, and I will only recommend techniques that actually work. Ultimately, if you want to make some positive changes in your life, there's no point in waiting around. The time to start is today, and you can jumpstart your progress by having a reading with me. Call 0800 849 2310 or visit themoreshow.co.uk/book a reading.
Well, I'm here in London on a lovely sunny afternoon with Carrie Kirkpatrick. Carrie, it's lovely to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Carrie, how did this all start for you? How did you get into becoming a sort of, renowned psychic medium?
Well, I've been working as a psychic for about 25, 30 years now, longer than I care to remember really. What I've found over the years is that I was learning how to help people to help themselves. Yes, in a reading you can give people information about their past, their present and their future, but I'm a great believer in helping people to be empowered. Over the years I'd become more involved with the goddess energies and paganism, and I found that I was able to translate this to help my clients, whether it be through visualizations, through affirmations, through working with some candle burning on the full moon or the new moon. We were basically looking at variations of what's come to be known as cosmic ordering. And the goddesses, when combined with cosmic ordering, can actually make some very powerful results magic.
So where did that pagan sort of background come from? I mean, what sparked that interest?
The first goddess that I came across was in Egypt. I'd been to visit there to make some music videos because I make films as well. And it was a year after my mother had died, and I went to stay with a friend of mine who was very into Egyptology. She took me to this tiny temple off to the side at Karnak Temple called the Temple of Ptah, which you normally wouldn't find on your first visit. And she paid the guy looking after it to go on the roof with a mirror to shine the light through, and we were allowed to be there on our own. Inside was a beautiful statue that was only illuminated when he had the mirror reflecting the sun, of a lioness-headed goddess, very tall, about 8 foot tall. And my friend said, just sit down and relax. So I sat down and relaxed, which is very difficult in front of some of these Egyptian monuments because they got a lot of energy coming from them. And I remember she sort of waved her arms around a bit and recited some incantations, and at the time I thought that's a bit odd, really. But after a while I suddenly felt this really strong charge of energy come from this statue and hit me right in what I now know to be the solar plexus. And there's no way I was looking for that or imagining it because I didn't know what to expect at all. But really that started me off on working with the goddesses, and it was actually several years later that I came across the pagan community in London, and I met some people who were working with lots of different goddesses from different pantheons. And that was it, the whole door opened up. I became a priestess and I worked with lots of different goddesses. I had lots of friends who did the same. And over the years we've developed a unique way of working magically with them and like to teach other people how to do it too.
So the goddesses are souls that have moved on and were worshipped before, or?
I personally don't believe that they were souls that have moved on in the way that a medium might connect with the spirit world. And even though I do have mediumistic abilities, I don't use them in that way when I'm giving someone a reading. I'm actually sort of tuned myself to work with the goddess energy. So even if I tried to tune in a reading to somebody's deceased relative, I wouldn't be able to do it, really. I mean, maybe I can if I really try, but it just doesn't seem relevant to me. I feel that by connecting to the goddess energies, I'm going on to a sort of slightly higher frequency. So it's a bit like having a radio receiver and you're fine-tuning to certain signals. It's debatable whether the goddesses ever walked the earth, but they are there throughout mythology, throughout history, throughout the world. And what's rather nice nowadays is that we live in a culture where one can research and access all of these different cultures. There's no restrictions, it's not illegal, you're not going to be persecuted for it.
Which is what some of your books have done, which we'll get into in a bit. But with the goddesses then, so do we each have a different goddess associated with us, or are you tuning into a goddess that's sort of your connection, your guide?
Over the years, I have been personally connected to many different goddesses. I've been a priestess dedicated to Hecate, Sekhmet, Zuli, and also the god Papa Legba. But I've also worked extensively with Isis, Hathor, Athena, Fortuna, Nike. And I think it's very nice to be able to follow your nose, if you like, and be drawn to a different goddess for a particular period of time. When I'm working with somebody quite closely, I might give them almost like a recipe, a prescription of working with several at a time to get through a certain issue in their life or to help them to develop in a certain way. So what you can do is really pick and choose. And what I've done with the books is mix up the pantheons. Goddesses of the Season is based on the pagan wheel of the year, which is essentially a Celtic tradition, but it's not just Celtic goddesses in here. When we have goddesses of love, abundance and transformation, I've chosen these 3 areas because when I'm giving readings for people, that's the 3 most popular areas where people scratch their heads and say, give me some guidance, please. And that's what it's really meant to be for. It's empowering people and giving them guidance and how to better their lives in those areas.
Right. When you say empowering, are you saying that, if they have a reading with yourself, should they need to come back?
I don't want them to come back too soon unless they've got doubts or they're really struggling with their confidence, because I might be helping them through periods of transformation. Maybe they've held themselves back, maybe they've felt very blocked and insecure. And so therefore, part of the reading might be to help them to really open up and fulfil their potential. So yes, they might need a top-up. But I'm not one of those psychics who just reels off a whole load of amazing facts, and then when they've all happened, the person comes back and goes, great, give me the next instalment. I'm not for the lazy client. If they just want to sit back and just be told some stuff, well, okay, we could go a little way, but I like to give people a bit of homework. I like them to start to take control. Yeah, come back and have another reading when you need a bit more navigation, because it is a navigational tool and you can have choices and you might need a little bit of help as to how to make the most of it.
So you say it's a higher level you're taking the information from. So, I mean, how accurate have they been? I mean, what's been the feedback?
I do get a lot of accurate feedback. I mean, feedback about accuracy, I should say. One could argue, if you were very cynical, that anyone who thought the reading was a pile of pants might not bother to come back and tell me. But I do have an awful lot of amazing feedback come back, and I'm always pleased to hear that, because it means that I'm doing the right thing. And when I work with the goddess Hecate, especially on my birthday, because it's her feast day, she is the goddess of psychic intuitions, but also illusions and fantasy and delusions. So I think any psychic is very wise to ask for a bit of help themselves, to say make sure that the readings are good for people and that it's going to be well delivered and it's the right information for them, because it's not really meant to be about ego. It's not about saying, hey, look, I've got the big gift, you must sit back and listen to me. If you're going to be doing this and giving people any messages and any guidance at all, it's got to really serve a purpose, and that purpose has got to be to help them to be happier, to fulfill their potential.
Would you say that's your purpose?
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah. And okay, with the books, let's just go through the books quickly. What can people get from these books? We've got the Goddess Enchantment, Magic and Spells.
Yeah. Volume 2.
Volume 2 and Volume 1. So just tell us a bit about Volume 1 to begin with.
Well, Volume 1 is based on the Celtic Wheel of the Year. So we're looking at the pagan festivals, the fire festivals, the equinoxes and the solstices. And that's become increasingly popular for people who are maybe seasoned pagans and know an awful lot about this, or maybe people who are coming to it for the first time. I mean, in recent years, people, generally have become a lot more aware of summer solstice and winter solstice, and they don't have to be practicing pagans to be aware of the fact that people are increasingly celebrating these times. So what we've done is we've chosen goddesses, not just from Celtic pantheon, but from other pantheons as well, that would be appropriate to work with at these times of year. We've given some lovely photographs, some history of those goddesses, why you might want to work with them today, what's the point, what's the practical purpose, why might you choose to work with Brigid or Persephone now? We're not in ancient Greece, we're not in ancient Ireland. What's the point? There has to be a practical purpose.
Are these very current in today's issues that you find people, I mean, obviously you've done so many readings, and a lot of the issues on those readings, would you say, are in the books?
Absolutely.
And what are some of those issues?
Well, love, success, abundance, getting rid of negativity, how to handle a situation where someone's being quite nasty to you and you feel very put upon by it, what's the best way to react to that, because a lot of us are very sensitive, and for example, something might really upset me that wouldn't upset you. So why is that? It's because it's really affecting us. We can't pretend it's not happening, but there can be certain ways you can work with your own energy and the energy of the situation to deflect it, which doesn't get you into the realms of being very negative.
So these books allow you in a practical sense to, basically, take on board what you're saying and use it in a day-to-day situation.
Absolutely. Day-to-day applications. This is how the goddesses were worked with in ancient times. They weren't just there up on high to be revered and then we'll go away and get on with your life and get, if you're having problems, get on with it. There was a goddess for everything. I guess one of the most modern parallels that you've got to that today is Hinduism, where there's a demigod for virtually every aspect of your day-to-day life. And you would go and make an offering or be devotional to a particular deity. You might have dreams about them. You might see that as a blessing from them. And the ancient people were just the same. So if you're working with Athena, Nike, Fortuna, if you're working with Aphrodite, if you're working with Persephone or Ceres, or if you've got certain issues that might be their territory, you might feel inspired to work with them. So you've got lovely photographs to look at and history that can work a bit like a coffee table book. But you've also got visualizations, which are like little rituals in themselves that can help you to actually connect to that goddess, to work through your issues, to get solutions, and you've got little spells to do as well. So you can dip in and out and use the books in different ways.
So do you think, hundreds of years ago, do you think they had it more worked out than we have it now? I mean, you've rediscovered this information, haven't you, and just placed it into these easy-to-use books. But just very briefly, do you think we had it more worked out than time's gone?
I think we did. I mean, I know there's been a lot said about patriarchal religions came along and stamped out the witches and the wise women and everything, and I know there's a lot of propaganda involved with that as well, but the balance did get taken away from the people. The wise woman might have just been a herbalist, and she might have had a very good intuition, and she might also have been a midwife, and a lot of that did get stamped down with the introduction of what was really, I feel, politically led mainstream religion at that time, and obviously that's a whole big issue that we could go into. So I feel that we've lost a lot of that local knowledge, and this is why it's becoming appealing to people nowadays to come back and rediscover some of it. And it might be a nice opportunity for you, if you're going on holiday to Greece, to go and visit some of the old temples and know a little bit about the ancient gods and goddesses there, because we deal with the gods as well, and then come back and think, well gosh, actually that's what they look like, and I could do a visualization, perhaps take the book with you on holiday and connect.
Right. And are you going to hold any workshop for these books?
We run workshops regularly, about sort of 6-7 times a year. We run them in Highgate in a very intimate environment. I like that because if we want to use the fireplace and people burn a piece of paper with that they want to get rid of, they absolutely can. If we want to have incense everywhere, we can do. We have ceremonies with maybe about 13 goddesses and gods, and literally it's almost as though the light in the room can become gold. And
again, you're available as well for readings as well?
I do
and people
readings.
Get in contact through your website, which we'll put on the screen?
Absolutely, yes. I've got www.goddess-enchantment.tv. I can come through, find out about our workshops, book private readings. I also do some work from time to time on psychic TV channels, where people can just phone up and have a reading with me. And I may be doing a little bit more of that again soon as well.
Okay, well, Carrie Kirkpatrick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
To find out more information on Carrie Kirkpatrick, just go to themoreshow.co.uk and look her up under past guests.
I'm Carrie Kirkpatrick and I'm a psychic clairvoyant. When you have a reading with me, I can tune into what is going on around you. My speciality is working with goddesses to help you to become more successful in your life. I find that people often need guidance in their love lives, and I'm an expert in helping you to get the most out of your relationships. I'm a practitioner of results magic, and I will only recommend techniques that actually work. Ultimately, if you want to make some positive changes in your life, there's no point in waiting around. The time to start is today, and you can jumpstart your progress by having a reading with me. Call 0800 849 2310 or visit themoreshow.co.uk/book a reading.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.